Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Scott Luton and Greg White with you here on today's special edition of the Supply Chain Buzz. Greg, how are we doing?
I feel like I'm live and in person for the first time on the Buzz.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So, folks, welcome, first off. But secondly, this is the first time we have taken our Supply Chain Buzz live since really the world was shut down. So stay tuned. We've got two home run guests here today to celebrate with us and to bring a ton of supply chain insights to you. And of course, we want to hear from you as well. So we've got two OGs, two supply chain now OGs. We got Paul Noble, founder and CEO of Verusen, and Kevin Heath, COO with OMNIA Partners. Paul, Kevin, how are we doing?
Doing well. Great to be with all of you.
Yeah, with.
Yeah.
It's great to even say that, isn't it?
It's good to be back. Yeah, it's good to be back together. It's been 18 months of a lot of transformation. So
Modex.
Thanks for having us, Modex. That was it.
Well, Kevin and his team he just said thanks for having us, but really we owe him thanks for having us here. Right? We're broadcasting live from Connections 2021 down here in beautiful Miami, Florida, the Magic City, which of course is hosted by the ever hospitable, say that 7 times fast.
Yeah, once fast.
OMNIA Partners team, having a blast. And Kevin, man, when y'all put something on, you go big.
Yeah, the team does a great job. You know, we have a large group here today. I think we'll have 500 people over the next couple of days. And it's an important time for us to get people back together, try to get back into a routine. So we're excited. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. It's been great so far.
It has.
We're just getting started.
That's right.
That's right. So day one. And Paul's got not one, but two keynotes here this week. So we'll touch on that more.
We're putting him to work.
Yeah, they are. Well, if you're going to be a heavy hitter, you got to get that seat at the table. You got to deliver.
And he literally has the seat at the table.
That's right. So
there we go.
All right. So what we want to do is say hello to some of the folks that are tuned in live as folks are rolling in now. Let's see here. We'll start,
of course,
with Peter Boley all night and all day. Peter tuned in from Canada up there. Peter, hope this finds you well. Ahmed is tuned in via LinkedIn. Ahmed, let us know where you are tuned in from. Brody Brown. Brody Brown is with us also via LinkedIn. Great to see you here. Nerf. I think, is Nerf back?
He's Nerf, no longer Nerfod.
Right.
He's kind of dodging the authorities a little bit.
Right.
So, but he's back.
Yes.
Did you connect with him?
No. We're only kidding. Nerf is not on the lam at all.
Not at all.
But he's back on social, and it's great to have him. Lisa Jennings is tuned in via LinkedIn. Great to see you, Lisa. Let us know where you're tuned in from. We couldn't do this. Of course, y'all should see, we don't have a camera, but we've got an awesome triumvirate of production operational talent over here.
Trust us.
Trust us, just off camera. Amanda, Vicky, and Sarah. And, Clay Phillips and Jada are also behind the scenes making it happen here today. So hello. And Nerf reminds everybody, he's tuned in from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. One final one. Gene Bledger is tuned in. Gene, thanks for your kind comments last week on our growth. He says from NA, he got the joke that LA last week.
Yeah, that's right.
Lower, he's from North Alabama, not Lower Alabama, LA as we call it around here. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Y'all picked a great show to tune in from, into. So, Greg, where are we starting here this afternoon?
It seems odd because we haven't done this live, so I'm not really sure where we're starting. So.
No, yeah, you're right. Normally, I can keep my eye on you in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. Now I've got to turn my whole.
I know. I feel like there's so many cameras, right, and so many people to look at actually in person. This is actually pretty exciting.
It
feels like a new era,
a new energy.
So. It's Christmas morning here on Supply Chain Now. Okay, well, this is where we're going to start. Folks, it is World Tourism Day. World Tourism Day. If you're like me, I had no idea that was a thing, but it is a thing, and we're going to poll our panel. Before we get into some heavy-hitting supply chain topics, really global business topics, we're going to poll our panel on one of the coolest places they've been, let's say in the last 4 or 5 years. So, of course, our travel's been constrained a little bit in the last 18 months or so. But, Paul, I want to start with you. You were sharing some things pre-show about some of his world travels. Where's the coolest place you've been here?
Yeah, obviously excited to get back on the road when we can internationally, but had the opportunity, and anyone that knows me well has heard this probably, Tokyo, Japan. We had the the ability to go there early 2019. SAP was launching a new innovation center and invited us to talk about how they're infusing early stage technologies into the SAP ecosystem through SAP IO. And so myself and a couple team members went over there to participate, and wow, what a time.
Did you have 2 keynotes there as well?
No, just one. We had one big event, a handful of meetings. We're meeting customers, but more importantly, from a travel perspective, we're able to see the great culture, food, and landscape in and around Tokyo. It was a blast. So I recommend it if you've never been.
So
when you can.
One little wrinkle to add to Paul's story he shared with us pre-show is that's where he caught the Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
Which
That's
we
right,
we
yeah.
can't share anymore if you don't know how that turned out for
It's
this
too
Falcons.
soon.
What was
Too
it? It was
soon.
28-3, I think, from
Oh,
the
Kevin.
guy from New England.
Too soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tom Brady and the Patriots broke Falcons' hearts for sure. But
Yeah.
we'll keep on moving.
Yeah, we'll be
Congrats,
back.
Kevin.
And we'll be back soon. We have a new partner there, NTT Data,
Yo, yeah.
that we're going to market
Just a
with.
small
in
company.
Asia. Yeah, just a little company, NTT Data. They're great, and we look forward to go and see them when we can.
Wonderful. Well, hey, we'll do a supply chain buzz there in Tokyo live
Let's do it.
soon, perhaps. Okay, so Paul, so Tokyo is your favorite spot. Kevin, what's a cool city you've been to here recently?
Yeah, so for us, pre-pandemic, I had accepted this role with OMNIA Partners in January of 2020. And we had a trip on the calendar to go to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And just an outstanding place for a family trip. We loved it. So much so that now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we're headed back there for Thanksgiving.
All right.
So highly recommend it. It's a
Wow.
beautiful piece of the country.
Good turkey in Dominican.
So, folks,
Bring
Kevin,
your own bird. BYOB.
he just raised the bar on expectations for Thanksgivings everywhere. So I appreciate you sharing. And we're getting some comments here from our skyboxes. Folks, let us know where you've enjoyed going. We've got Peter says he was in Singapore years ago for a Star Alliance procurement meeting. What a fantastic trip that was. By the way, hello, Farshad, tuned in via LinkedIn from Tehran. Great to have you here. And then Azalea Jackson, a new resident of Nashville,
That's right.
is tuned in here today. So great to see you. One final thing. So Nerf says, my favorite city is the same favorite city of the U.S. sitting president, Del Rio, Texas, baby. I had no idea. Okay.
Very nice.
All right. So
Always with the timely comments.
Zing.
Zingbot, right here on Splotching Out. Okay, so Greg, you're not getting out of this question. What's a cool place you've been?
I've been a lot of cities, but I have to say that probably one of my favorites is Oslo, Norway. I know that sounds odd
No,
to pick
not at
Oslo,
all.
but there is this amazing, the former king of Norway has kind of a hunting cabin. They've turned it into a resort, golf courses. It's the quietest place on earth. And I used to do a trip all the way around the world a couple times a year. And I would always land there for a few days before we did our European conference, because even the birds and bugs are polite enough to keep it quiet. So you can sleep with your windows open. It's 60 degrees in June. So I just love
wonderful.
It's all about
Oslo.
peace in Oslo, right?
It is.
Swing in, get your medal,
Yeah.
and take off. Okay.
Sounds refreshing.
Even the bugs cooperate in Oslo. How about that? All right. So, kidding aside, Nerf says Zadar, Croatia, is his coastal city and gorgeous, one of his favorites to go to. So, I appreciate you sharing there, Nerf. Folks, let us know. We'll take your comments throughout today's live stream about your favorite place to go. If you can throw in there why you like it, that'd be great too. Okay.
I feel like I'm cheating off of
Yeah.
I'm looking at your paper over here. Just like high school.
Just like high school. All right. So next, so speaking of World Tourist Day, of course, most of us are tourists down here in Miami. Gorgeous, gorgeous weather, gorgeous city. Down here for Connections 2021, hosted by the heavy hitters over at OMNIA Partners. Paul, we talked about you're like the star power down here, 2 keynotes. What are you looking most forward to about the event?
I think it's a unique opportunity at this point in time, right? Supply chains are very chaotic, and I think what is, to say the least. And one of the things I'm most excited about is getting different parts of the network together to talk about how we're going to move forward and attack these challenges. And that's one of the great things about OMNIA Partners is the network that they have, and the alliances across that network. There's a lot of great opportunities. Procurement is incredibly strategic, more than it's ever been before. That's to be able to talk and hear about the challenges and align with those is what I'm most excited about.
Love that.
Yeah.
Greg, speaking of star power, we got Kevin Heath here as well.
Yeah.
So Kevin, what you looking forward to this week?
For us, so much has changed, over the last couple of years. Businesses have changed their models. There's significant disruption that we'll talk about here in a little bit. For me, it's really similar to what Paul said, is having the network back together. We'll have some of the largest companies in the world. Some of the, we have a good population of small to medium-sized businesses that'll be here. And then a significant portion of our members will be here, both on the public and the private sector side, and really understanding what the world looks like for them on a go-forward basis so that collectively we can be here to support them.
So, Greg, we talk a lot about companies that, especially during these challenging times, invest in events like this, where not folks don't just come out and gather market intel and exchange that, but it's about building relationships. Your take, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I think that, look, companies, especially small and medium businesses, they need to outsource, if you want to call it that, or partner with companies to do more of the things that aren't really their core competency. Companies have struggled a long time. They've been really good at selling, not as great at marketing, or really good at marketing products, but not as great at producing them. Mm-hmm. And now there's just an incredible opportunity when you have a GPO or a procurement organization to work with that allows you to be able to do what you're best at and sort of shop what you need help with. And in this market where Amazon is running over everyone and other big competitors, super competitors are out there challenging smaller companies, it's a great opportunity. And I've always thought that smaller companies should have the opportunity to be able to leverage other entities to do what is not really their core competency.
Love that. Democratize. And to do that and to compete effectively, you've got to have resources like the OMNIA Partners team. You were going to say something, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up with what Greg said. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing, when we talk to a lot of our members, and what's important to them right now, they really want to stay focused on their core business, what it is that they do. And they're seeing an opportunity across supply chain to really have partners that can be trusted, pre, mid, and post-pandemic.
Right.
And so it's such a big piece of what we're trying to do in our message.
Yeah, we see a lot of that. You can see a lot of that with a lot of the e-first companies, the e-commerce or direct-to-consumer companies. They are starting by outsourcing a lot of what is not their core, right? And you can see where it creates huge leverage for the company to be able to accelerate much, much more quickly.
Yeah, great point. We're not talking about that or that, just some striking off your list. In case you didn't know. keep you focused. No baseball, no culinary exploits.
Speaking of focus.
Just best with you. All right, so I want to say hello. We've got a couple special guests. All of our guests in the Skybox are special, but Andrea Scobie is with us as well. Of course, she's part of the leadership team here at OMNIA Partners.
She could actually be here with us, but she's tuning in from somewhere around the building.
That is right. Azalea says it's time for a vacation. Maybe she's going to check out Iceland. And Jose is with us via LinkedIn. Jose, I think Singapore is one of your favorite places. Let us know where you're tuned in from, and I appreciate your message last week. And then finally, Natalie, I don't know, are y'all Big Brother fans? We are Big Brother fans.
Okay.
Natalie says Zingbot and the Big Brother reference was not expected today, so she enjoyed that. Amanda and I we love Big Brother. All right.
That went right past me.
Yeah.
We got to bring in Zingbot at some point, Amanda. We have a lot of fun with that. David and Dr. Rhonda Bumpenzis, I'm a great CEO here as well. Okay, we've got to get into the heavy lifting, right? We got a couple big stories we're going to dive into. We're going to get Greg and Paul and Kevin's take on them. So, Greg, but first off, what are you looking forward to this week? And then we'll get into it.
Well, I think a lot of what we just discussed, the opportunity for some of these SMBs to see what is potential out there, some of the suppliers that are engaging. It's not all about parts and pieces. We're going to talk about that here in a second. It's about people and relationships. And when you've got an organization like what OMNIA Partners is putting together, It gives a smaller company so much more leverage. Look, everybody knows by now, I'm a fan of this business model because I think it creates so much leverage for these smaller businesses. And the time is right. Look, it's accelerate or not just get passed over, get run over. So we have to enable these small businesses to be able to build and accelerate.
Morbid Monday here on Supply Chain Now. Okay. So, but well said. I agree with you.
It's true.
That's right. Can't sit on laurels. Okay. I want to start. So Paul and Kevin, y'all ready? We're entering the guru zone where we're going to dive into and get y'all's take on some of the things taking place across global supply chain. So the first one, and Paul, I want to start with you. We got this really neat story from NPR where it talks about how one single missing part can unleash the Kraken in global supply chain. And you know what? I'm only slightly exaggerating there. So Paul, tell us more about this story and then give us your take.
Yeah, so this was sent to me by Jeff Peters. Shout out to Jeff the other day, and it hit home, and he knew it definitely would. So our business is focused on materials, and there's a lot of focus on logistics and supply chain, but I think a lot of people overlook that from a materials perspective. One small disruption, whether it's a gasket on an asset or a microchip in a vehicle, can shut everything down, and then things begin to pile up. So as I looked at this story, it really hit home of a lot of the things that we're talking about. We're talking with chief supply chain officers, chief procurement officers every day about really trying to understand really what they need, where they need it, when they need it, give agility, right? Not to buzzword everyone to death, but it's as much as bingo is as much as cost savings is important. You need to understand the risks of how you're partnering with your most strategic suppliers, where you have first, second, third sources. And it's a combination of both. It's something that we talk a lot about, what we call material truth. It's part data. It's how that data is presented to take action to people. And it's a combination of what do you need that doesn't induce more risk into your supply chain. And that's going to move up and down with the craziness of supply chains all across. And it can be a ship getting stuck in the Suez, or it can be, something not available to keep production up and running, right? So, that's what hit home to me. And again, it's just very much the tip of the iceberg of how to get a handle on that.
So I want to come to you, Kevin, and then you in a second here, Greg. But Wakanda, Illinois was part of this article. In fact, they started with Nicole Walter, who runs HM Manufacturing. And you all know what Wakanda, Illinois is known for?
Gears and pulleys.
I
just read the article.
We'll add that to the list. So Blues Brothers, Wakanda was one of the places they filmed that. And secondly,
is that 100 miles to Chicago? Have to take a gas and
sunglasses.
Cigarettes.
But secondly, in 2005, I think it was, a 3,000 person snowball fight, the largest in the world, took place right here in Wakanda. And I guess that's one of the ways of recruiting businesses into Wakanda, Illinois, right? It's breaking records. But the other thing that Nicole Walter said in this article, and Kevin, I'll come to you next, is, quote, "It's a circus, and I'd like to get off this ride."
Right.
So Kevin, whether it's article or something that Paul said, what are some of your takes here about what we're seeing?
Yeah, we see the world similarly, Paul and I, as we've been together for a long time. But, it can be a part, it can be people. We are seeing significant disruptions around the world. It's chips, it's labor shortages, the impacts are compounding.
Right.
People think that parts can't be produced because of the one missing part, right? But you can stack that up as if you can't get the parts out of there, even if you have all the materials. We're hearing stories of companies shutting down because they have no place to put goods. You can't get a container ship. So this disruption is real. I was talking to a friend the other day. There are 75 fully loaded cargo ships sitting in San Francisco Bay right now that can't get unloaded.
Wow.
Whether that's your missing part or that's what's keeping you from making more parts, the disruption is unprecedented in anything I've seen in 30 years.
A world record, historical record of 75 ships. And as the article points out, as we've been tracking for a while, Greg, it is taking more than a week to unload each ship. So, Greg, some of your thoughts?
I think we have to redefine what efficiency is in the supply chain, because we have defined efficiency so often as cost minimization, and now we have to recognize that has hurt us when it comes to risk in the supply chain, and I think that's one of the things that we have to tackle here. And also, this article is really good. It's really interesting. Some of what these people saw. I love the analogy of it being like a recipe. Right? You're trying to build a really complex meal and you don't have that one recipe that stops the entire thing from happening. And I think for so long, companies have presumed that they'll be able to get everything, right? They may have even had, as you said, Paul, they may have even had secondary or tertiary suppliers, but they weren't really serious about keeping that at that agility and resilience in their supply chain. So that's impacted us, and now we have to get really serious about systematizing and really having secondary options.
Yeah, and it seems like very cliche, but supply chain, obviously now supply networks, and you really are only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
And I think the focus on that, not overcomplicating a already incredibly complex situation, is going to be, what helps navigate out of this thing.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Yeah, I agree.
Two thoughts there. Number one, going back to something Paul said, if you're going to compete on price, you got to know about the repercussions. You got to be able to manage to them. And then secondly, on the food comparison, love that level setting. It's universal. It's like Mihal from Corning, right? I found out after the fact, Amanda, didn't we? I was mispronouncing Mihal's name throughout the 3-day conference. We referenced Michael, remember?
Yeah.
It's Mihal.
Okay.
And Mihal put this this wonderful comparison of supply chain excellence. It's all about Michelin stars, restaurants, and cooking.
Right.
So I love that call. That's a great call out. Everyone can relate to food for sure. Okay, so I want to call out a couple quick comments here. I want to welcome in Osmay from Jordan. Great to have you here, Osmay. We'd love to know what you're thinking as we walk through these articles. John Martinez is back. Now, John is a fellow veteran that just got on with a company down in San Antonio, I believe. So, John, let us know. I may have gotten that wrong. Let us know. Folks are good about letting us know when we get stuff wrong.
Yeah.
John
and they get plenty of opportunities.
Right. Well, and speaking of which, and John, I'm going to come back to your comment in a second. Speaking of which, when you talked about copying from my paper, David says, not only will you have more wrong answers, we'll have a lot more of the same wrong answers. So thank you for that, David. I appreciate that. All right, so back to the serious adult stuff. John says, we are seeing lead times of up to 18 weeks for some of our materials. What would you recommend to combat not putting in bulk orders to remain as lean as possible? We are moving towards being a JIT, just-in-time manufacturing operation. So he's got a question and a comment in there. Would any of y'all want to just add a quick response, Paul?
Sure. Talk about it a lot. Just wrote an article in Forbes about this, right? So
wait a second, Paul. Wait a second. 2 keynotes, and now you're in Forbes. Holy cow, man!
Not now. He's been in Forbes forever.
Evangelizing. Yeah, we got to talk about this stuff.
That's awesome.
But no, everything pre-pandemic was lean,
Right.
And then obviously with this shift, it's, hey, let's get away from lean. Let's go, get agile, which is often buy more, inflate inventories, do those types of things. You can have both, right? And in the short term, certainly have to get back on track. But as you're planning and you're, looking at who you're going to partner with, what technologies you're going to adopt, it's not one or the other, right? Prepare to be able to pull the lever when you need to. Would be my suggestion.
Love that.
Paul, one of the key things you talked about there is partnerships.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've seen and been able to do across our membership is really be that trusted source of supply, because it went back to the relationships. And we know that there's going to be a new normal that comes at us. And we don't want to be the person that was only there in the spot market. We want to be the person that's there long term. So I think that combination of data, technology, planning, trusted relationships, getting good insights with your suppliers into what your day-to-day supply chain looks like is another opportunity for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And would look at strengthening partnerships and adopting technologies that can get you there faster, right? You can, said it a couple times over the last to both customers and partners. You can't project your way out of this one, right? So don't think you can build it and take focus away from what you do as a business.
Right.
Lean on partnerships, strengthen those partnerships. That's the only way, again, we're going to get through this.
It's really about risk, right? We have to acknowledge where the risk is very precisely, where in the past we would just inflate inventories, everything. You have to identify where your real risk is, where in the supply chain it is, whether it's with your supplier or with your shipper, with your lead time or the variability of that lead time, and do so for those items where you recognize that, because you will have items that you may not need to change policy at all.
Yep.
Right? But you'll have items where you'll need to change policy significantly, and the days of treating everything the same, they're over. They should have been over before, but now they are definitely
sometimes
over,
it takes something serious.
That's right.
Yeah.
Greg, I think, you're talking about risk, but I think it's also understanding what problem you're solving for. Right? Because the problem we're solving for today to get through the pandemic and to get supply chains back to an efficient point is going to look different than the solution that we need for whether it's a chip shortage, a part shortage, or a labor shortage long term.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of
It's
those.
extreme because we shut down the economy of the entire planet all at once.
Right.
Yeah. But it does give us, often these sort of ends of the spectrum kind of activities, they give us a good insight. And as I wouldn't say we're coming back to normal, but look, let's face it, supply chains have always been about risk.
Right.
It's always been about addressing and preventing and managing and then assessing and targeting how we attack disruption. This has just been the biggest disruption in the history of the planet. So
and it's building that trust in in untrustworthy data, trust in each other across internally and external partners, which I think might be a segue for you.
Yes. But I want to get Azalea's,
well done. Let's swap seats.
All right.
I want to get Azalea's comment here because partnerships is where that last segment started. And Azalea says, partnerships are precisely what will keep small businesses alive from today forward. Some companies will do digital transformation better than others, but you can see how companies are piggybacking off others to transition into that more smoothly. And of course, one of y'all mentioned Lean on Me. Hey, Bill Withers has a seat at the table in global supply chain. Okay, so I forgot that segue, Paul, but thank you. I'm going to come back to the second article.
No, you're good.
There's so much to leave that last article. That NPR piece was a great piece, and I think folks, if you're not in supply chain, you can read that and you can really take away a lot of the common and unique constraints of these crazy times we're living in, especially for supply chain practitioners. But let's move to the second story from Supply Chain Dive. So this speaks, Paul, this is right up your alley. This is a tidal wave of data, right? As this article, which Supply Chain Dive is one of our favorites, Rudolf Leshner, I think I got that right. Rudolf Leshner from Rutgers. He says, hey, folks are no longer screaming for the data. They're screaming because they have too much data. So Paul, give us your take on this article and give us a hot take after that.
All right. So obviously data is important, and went back to the equation earlier is that you have more and more data available. And it's not just about having the data, it's about understanding the data and presenting it to people that are experts and can provide direction on how that can be utilized in the business. So it's this combination, right? Where there's a part of the story that exists in systems today, but it's about trust, and people just do not trust their data today, right? And so as we look at more information coming in, more external signals to just your traditional, materials or production schedules and things, and you're looking at external signals, sensor data, weather data that can go into these traditional algorithms and help build trust and help be more predictive, you have to look at it differently, right? So if you are turning to the technologies and processes of the past to get you to the future, you may need to look at things a little differently, right? Because that's what got you here, and we talk about that a lot, right? There is a place for master data management. There is a place for data governance, but it's kind of a long road. You need to do it in parallel with things that'll get you there quickly, or it's going to be difficult to be as agile as you want to be.
You know, and you mentioned the material truth a little while back, and you just said there at the start of your answer that folks don't trust the data, you know, because everyone's got their own spreadsheet, right? And leadership's trying to find that material truth or that data truth, whatever you want to call it, to make good decisions faster oftentimes in this day and age. So I know you want to address that, but Kevin, I want to get you in really quick. Based on what Paul just shared and based on what this article about this tidal wave of data, any take from you?
Yeah, we believe that, you know, to pull off a little bit of what we were talking earlier, right? You know, OMNIA is a procurement organization. We probably are one of the largest aggregators of data in North America, if not the world, transactional data. And, you know, Paul and I have been working together collectively because it's not a core competency of us, but we believe it really can help shape how we bring solutions to the workplace. And so how do you bring it in? How do you contextualize it? How do you structure it so that it drives insights in a repeatable way? In many cases, I think we know this, right? People don't trust it because they use the same language talking from different data sets. And so it's not just about getting the data, it's understanding it and using it to solve problems in a way that create value. For us, we're really focused on trying to bring it in and turn it into solutions where we can gain insights and analytical. We get some business intelligence that you guys will see this week that we're building on some technology platforms called OMNIA Connect. And it's got some machine learning behind it that Paul's going to be working with us on in the future. So we're excited about that, but it's hard. I mean, it's really something that we have to lean on our partners for to help us understand it.
I love it, man. Getting Paul signed up to power some of this stuff. It's like getting Ric Flair starting a wrestling movie, you know? All right, so great. I heard that. That was good. All right, I know you're dying to jump in here based on what Paul and Kevin's talking about.
I think as important as the wealth or lack or the cleanliness of the data is the analytics that we use, because so many of the analytics, so much of the math that we talked about before, right? So much of the math that we used assumed a lack of robust data. And therefore, it can only use the data that was presented to it in 1689 when predictive analytics were created. I'm sorry. You should stole that with that.
Sandbag.
But I mean, look, let's face it,
because I think it's important.
predictive analytics are not a new thing, right? And a lot of the calculations that are built around the top things that we use predictive analytics for, forecasting and customer insights and supply and inventory optimization and things like that, those calculations were built in 1689. At the latest, some of them in the late 1800s. And you have to think about the data that was available then. This sold, end of discussion. Right? We don't know why it sold. We don't know who bought it, right? Because it was written down, if it was even written down, the sale. Right. Now we know who bought it, why they bought it, what path they came to buy it through, the web, in a store, what ads did they pass on the way there. All of those things are rich and valuable bits of data that allow us to discern better things like forecasting, which, you know, demand forecasting, which we've just described. And that's going to require a change in the mathematics and analytics that are used to create this. The machine learning and the artificial intelligence that you all use to analyze this data allows us to incorporate a lot of this data. Once we make it less of a mess, then you have to be able to incorporate this rich data to be able to come up with the result that you want.
And on our earlier piece that we talked about, it's potentially a solution to prevent us from overbuying, over-procuring, overstocking, you know, things that we don't necessarily need in the quantities that we feel like we need them today.
It's, again, it goes back to my 1 o'clock got pushed, so we're good to go. So you want to know what you need, where you need it, when you need it, right? That's the bottom line. There's a ton of complexity on how we get there, but Greg, you and I have talked about, I think if you took a market share of the demand planning system that has the highest market share, it'd be probably Microsoft Excel. And so you're doing all these decisions outside of the system. You can learn nothing of the why that went into that decision. And until you combine that data and the why, it's going to be,
You don't get a solution.
yeah, you're just going to be continuing to be reactive instead of being predictive, right? Everything is there to buy in, lay the foundation, and begin learning from those things at scale, like at a global level. And again, it's just the beginning of that, but you need to pull yourself out of Excel and how you exchange with your partners. and all
Not
that
just
type of
Excel,
stuff, yeah.
though. I mean, some of
Access
the
and-
legacy,
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
even some of
yeah,
the
yeah.
legacy applications, I'm not going to name them here, but we know who they are. They still forecast the way that Excel does. They may
Right.
do it more fast and they may manage the data better. But the truth is, the why is critical. That's the thing that you've identified. In the past, it used to be how much and when, and then we evolved to who, to some extent, who bought it. So we've continued to evolve with that data, with the techniques that we use, but the why is the critical part of it. It is the most important part in the instance of predicting consumer sentiment or consumer action or demand.
So you're making,
For instance, right? So we have to understand what the real trigger points are, not the ones we presume them to be in the past, because we built calculations that lack the ability to really analyze data that we couldn't capture before.
you're ruining my day. You're
Did I steal
saying,
something else?
no, but you're saying I've got to learn new math, and I have a hard
No,
time
no.
with the original math.
With these guys around, you don't have
No,
to
it
learn
hasn't
new
changed.
math at all.
All right,
Right.
It's all the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. You don't have to learn new math
1
at all.
plus 1 will always equal 2.
You just need to find new
Okay, I
sources.
feel a little better. I feel a little better.
You just need to find new sources because the old ways of doing things
Right.
no longer apply. They simply don't work.
You know, the why is important. Of course, Simon Sinek, the world renowned, bringing why to the forefront of why, that's where we have to start. So much good stuff in that last 5 minutes between the three of y'all. I want to go back to the folks in the skybox. We've got some great comments here. Let's see here. Letty says, love to see you repping your Verusen shirt, Greg White. What a solid panel of people. Hey, thanks, Letty. And that is a good looking shirt.
You're good people,
Let's see
Greg.
here. Natalie says, we are finding that the systems and mathematics of planning, demand and supply, are a great start, but the human evaluation is critical right now. Excellent point.
Right now and forever.
Right.
In my opinion. Yeah.
Let's go to Farshad. Farshad says via LinkedIn, maybe we need to consider new types of forecasting techniques and inject COVID experiences. Excellent point. Gregory, William Shakespeare of Supply Chain is his nickname. Gregory says, hello, and everyone on this great forum. So Gregory, hey, you got to chime in eloquently with a take on what
Maybe
we're talking
he should
about.
summarize what we've said so
Yeah.
far today.
We welcome
He'll
that.
say it most eloquently.
Yes, he will. One more. So I'm going to go to a question here. So, folks, we love the questions, and when we have a home run panel like we have today, it's a good time to pose and get some takes, right? So this comes from Andre. So Andre says, after the pandemic, I am now using more time on sourcing for alternatives as a hospital purchaser in Norway. Can you suggest any good tools other than my best friend, Google? We all have a best friend named Google, huh? Plastic, aluminum, and chip shortages is affecting us throughout the supply chain. Andre, we feel your pain. It's a tough question to get in a short conversation, but Kevin, let's start with you from a sourcing, procurement. Any thoughts to pass to Andre here?
Yeah, so we've started to leverage some tools out there around Zoom Info and other applications, but ultimately today with the chip shortage, everyone's going to the same source. Everyone's going, or with these shortages, everyone's going to Google to try to find that stuff. Zoom Info is another tool that people could consider as finding resources. It also gives you contact information, name and numbers.
Love that.
I'm curious, since he asked this question, and I know that we've talked to a lot of your team members before. I know that you do consider who are the potential sources of certain products. I mean, is that something that when you build your supplier network, do you include, this is a great primary, these are great secondaries, that kind of thing?
We do. We have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, in multiple different variables of sources of supply. We also have a sourcing desk. Dan Grant leads our sourcing desk team and handles stuff Asia Pac, Mexico areas. So, OMNIA is also a great source to find those tier 2, tier 3 type solutions. But yeah, our suppliers have a pretty good network throughout there. We were having a conversation with one of our suppliers the other day on forged plastic, and looking for sources to really go attack that for things that go into like electronic dispensers. And so we see it all. We also have a community with our private sector, OMNIA Partners Private Sector, where if people are interested, they can reach out and touch base with us on OMNIA, send in questions, and we can help them touch base with our sources.
Do you do business in Norway?
I'll have to go check.
Yeah, right.
I can't.
I can tell you a great place to stay. If you go.
So as y'all know, and as Andre knows, it's not, Google or any one tool is not a magic wand.
Right.
It takes a village,
Yeah.
perhaps in more ways than ever
Network.
before. Network and also gathering all that market intel, so you don't just identify one potential new path or one potential new approach. It's working with experts that can give you maybe a couple different options. Paul, you were going to add something to Andre.
Yeah, it's a piece that you touched on, Greg, that's on top of mind for everyone is don't be overwhelmed. Start. Can't eat this
Can't solve it in
in one
a day.
bite.
We
Bite
didn't,
it
we
off.
didn't get here in a day.
So
right?
yeah, exactly. So let's look at your riskiest situations, tackle that first,
Yep.
and start working through. And you're gonna learn the right progression to turn that on, so it doesn't happen again, right? So all the things we've been talking about, but yeah, just start. That's a big thing.
Just start.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there, Paul, is you got to tackle these problems like Greg White tackled that 56-ounce steak last night.
That's right.
Is that right? So Greg, what would you add?
It was only 10, I think, wasn't it? I'm looking for verification
Yeah,
from
right.
off camera. It was only 10-ounce steak, just to be clear. But they did have a 32-ounce powder. We just couldn't afford it.
Yeah,
That's
right.
So
You are from Kansas.
I know,
That's
right?
We're about to switch gears and kind of dive in a little deeper in this last segment to the relationship between Paul and Kevin, and also what's going on with Verusen and OMNIA Partners. But before we do that, as we wrap on these two articles, this conversation, Greg, what else would you offer?
I'm going to say this the way I've always said it whenever we've had OMNIA on with us is if you don't get help with OMNIA Partners, get help somewhere. Seriously, I really believe in this GPO model because, as I said, it's a huge leverage point for one of my neighbors used to be the CFO of Charter Hospitals, and I stole their tagline. That was their tagline. There are too many things that need to happen too quickly for small companies to be able to learn. They need to be able to dive in where they can mitigate risk, where they can create network opportunities, as you've talked about. Look, we see this all the time in technology. And I think what we're doing is we're applying the way that technologies have started up in the past decade or two to other businesses that aren't necessarily technology related, or at least that's not their core business. And it's a great model. We've seen it be incredibly successful, outsourcing development and, with other types of businesses. You can do the same thing and create a lot of leverage in your business to really accelerate your opportunity for success.
Before you go, Scott, there are so many things in today's supply chain and supply networks that you cannot control. So control what you can control and don't overcomplicate it. Start, but keep it simple and make your way to the path, because everyone knows the utopia they want to get to, right? And it's a progression, right? You can't do it tomorrow.
So we already got about 17 T-shirt isms already, but one of them you said there, Paul, was, quote, don't be overwhelmed. You can't solve it all today. Tackle your riskiest situations first, but just start. And folks, we're live across 5 social channels right now. That was from our hardworking Twitter account, which is led by, I think Amanda is driving Twitter today.
Is she? Okay.
So good stuff. You can tune in.
And not from a basement. Right. Or at least not from her mom's basement.
Right.
From a meat cooler.
That's right. It's not a bot. It's not a bot. But we try to make it easy for y'all to engage wherever you'd like to. I want to share a couple quick comments here, and we're going to dive into this last segment. Andrea again, and Andrea, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate your questions and commentary. Last 2 years, I have also unintentionally become a data scientist, moving from Excel to Microsoft Power BI. We have so much available data in our hospitals, it's like a candy shop of low-hanging fruit. Sharing experiences in the same sector would be appreciated. Hey, reach out to the folks in the skyboxes, and we'll try to be that connector as best we can. See, Peter Bollet. Peter, great to have you back. He says, previous 39 minutes can be summarized as, quote, wake up, smell the coffee, get out of the box, creative with your solutions to meet future demands, not current demands, future. And then Kyle also agrees with Kevin and the rest of y'all about Zoom Info is a great tool. Kyle, excellent podcast over the team over at Freight Plus. Y'all check that out. A lot of great content across social there. Great to have you here today, Kyle. Okay.
Can I just one more thing?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So one of the things that has been a hindrance for companies as well has been technology. We just barely touched on technology as a business model, but one of the sources in this article said when they can build an app that can help me do this and I can carry it in my pocket, and this was the professor from Rutgers, Lushner. Then small and medium businesses will be able to do that, right? And that is part of the issue. Is it's a $5 to $10 million initiative right now. It needs to become a $5 to $10 a month initiative or something like that. Right. And then that will help. So technology has to catch up. We've already acknowledged that we're using old technology to try to use new data, and we need to simplify it so that the everyday business can actually leverage all of that value. So there's a couple of steps we've got to do.
Yes, lots of work, lots of homework to do leaving this live stream. We'll check it on Friday as we reconvene. Gregory says, hey, thanks, Scott and Greg. Sorry I tuned in late. Evolving strategies should exist in the proper utilization of data capturing, intelligently designed tools implemented throughout supply chains, value chains to drive fluid and sustainable ecosystems. How about that from the Shakespeare?
That's why he's a Shakespeare.
Yes. And then one final comment, and I promise I'm coming to you next, Paul, is Mohib is tuned in from Air Capital of the World, says, hey, cool that you're in Miami. I hope you get some supply of Cool Dad coastal shirts. Saying,
I'm looking at Amanda and her look right now.
Say, this is my Cool Dad t-shirt. All right, Mohib, just for you. I sure will. And your ears may have been burned lately as Greg and I were talking about some of y'all's recent conversations. Okay, so as we turn down this home stretch here, I want to Paul. So Paul, love what Verusen's got going on. We were just talking over dinner last night about our first conversation forever ago at Godfather's in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And our dear friend Daryl Liu, talk about a heavy hitter amongst donuts and data and a lot more. But Paul, what's going on with Verusen? Give us the latest news. And also Kevin mentioned, and we know this as well, that y'all have collaborated for quite some time. Shed some light on that too.
Yeah, sure. So exciting time. I mean, unique time in supply chain, right? Talk to our team and our investors and our customers about, the stars aligning for a supply chain technology business and the way we approach legacy systems and processes. But, Verusen, we're growing quickly based on the market. And what we do is we're the simplest way to manage materials across your network, right? So it's getting data out of the Frankenstein, knowing it's dirty, knowing it's incomplete, making sense of it to drive value, whether that's inventory, procurement intelligence, being able to send it to existing systems. That's what we're really about is, adding that layer of intelligence, combining data with humans and allowing that to drive fast results and scale. And so we've grown very quickly over the last year and are looking to grow even more over the next 12 to 18 months, not stopping anytime soon. And it's really important for us as we obviously partner with large organizations that manage these materials, whether it's indirect or direct and raw materials. It's about having partners like Kevin and his team and OMNIA Partners, right? So it's bringing together those elements of network, allowing them to support one another. It goes down to, I call it this, you call it that. It's called this in this other part of the supply chain. Getting it out of those systems and making sense of it is going to catalyze us and accelerate us.
Getting to the truth.
That's right.
To the truth. And
can you handle the truth?
That's great, man. We should, and really, Paul put it. Paul's very humble. Y'all been blowing up, and it's great to see. You got new headquarters. You got, you joined Greg on Tequila Sunrise and talked about the last round of fundraising, which is wonderful. She's blowing up, tons of demand in the marketplace. So love seeing that. And then we've appreciated our collaboration together going back several years. So thank you for that, Paul. But Kevin, based on some of the things that Paul shared there and y'all's relationship that y'all have, and what it sounds like this next generation relationship, how exciting is that? Tell us about OMNIA Partners, what folks should know, and touch on y'all's relationship.
Yeah, so Paul and I have been on this data journey for a while. He talks about the unique time in supply chain. We've been saying that for 5 years now.
Yeah, right.
For the last 5 years, it's been unique because technology is ever changing, and this digital transformation. These buzzwords get thrown around a lot, but it's what's driving this change. For OMNIA Partners, really, I think a lot of people think of us as a traditional GPO. We're really trying to break that mold and have them think about us as a trusted advisor, an extension of their organization, whether you're a supplier or a member. We have trusted partners like Paul and many others that fit in our network, but our contract portfolio is expansive. It's very large. And it doesn't stop there. We help with data, we help with analytics, we help with assessments, benchmarking. So we have a sourcing desk in our private sector business. So for OMNIA Partners, it's going through a tremendous transformation. It's a company that has grown, exponentially over the last 5 years, and in a great place to really help. We specifically, it's small to medium business. We also have a large membership in the enterprise. And that's going to really continue to grow in years to come. So we're excited.
Love that. Man, tons of growth.
Yeah, Kevin has put a great team together since going to OMNIA a couple of years ago now. We first met when he was at Georgia Pacific, but it's really important on that factor of, suppliers need certain things, manufacturing customers or end users need certain things.
Right.
They can achieve and get out of it what they want and lean on each other and actually, again, trust in the data. Yeah. And that's where we're getting to.
It's a total value solution.
Yeah.
I think traditionally people think of this as a low price market, but it's transformed into a real solution oriented organization that really has the ability to help companies grow their business and be more profitable.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Nerf says extension of an organization should not be something companies are afraid of. People are stuck in the "we've always done it this way" mode, and that mindset needs to change. Well said, Nerf. And great to see you here today.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So one more thing, one distinction too, because I know OMNIA Partners has a private practice and a public practice. And Sarah is just off stage here. We appreciate all of her facilitation this week. And we should note that the LinkedIn feed for the private practice is chock-full.
Chock-a-block. That's what they say in Australia.
It's full of best practices, resources, and articles. You name it, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
It's omniapartners.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn. Click on our private sector business. There's a wealth of information there for you. So
I'm so glad I got you here instead of in the screen to correct me when I say something wrong.
Actually, I just nudged you. Yeah. Hey.
Isn't that cool to be able to do that?
Yeah, it is. I remember those days.
No
vaguely.
kidding. Usually it's an email or a quick text afterwards,
Right.
but now he's sitting right here beside me, folks. We're two of our favorite people. All right. So Kevin, really admire what you and the OMNIA Partners team is doing in general, but also here this week, investing, giving folks really the opportunity in person to do what you and Paul both have been speaking to, which is kind of that market intel exchange. Certainly, starting new relationships, investing in current relationships, and folks, as we've been talking, Greg, for months now, it's been free for supply chain procurement pros to come down here and attend, right?
What is it we said? Learn, connect, grow. Miami. What else do you need to know?
So, and it's not inexpensive. So I appreciate what companies like OMNIA Partners do.
This is a fantastic facility, and you can just anyone.
Hey, and a shout out to you guys. This is
thank you.
not an easy thing for you guys to undertake, and greatly appreciate our partnership and friendship. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice versa. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. All right, so Paul, let's make sure. We're going to ask you how folks can connect with you. For long, it's going to be going through your agent, I believe. Maybe
Well, if they don't know by now, right? we get new listeners and viewers every day, so we got to keep letting people know. That's probably some people are going. They've got five notes here. Oh yeah, that's how.
So, Paul, how can folks connect with you and the Verusen team?
Simple website, Verusen.com. Social channels at Verusen_AI. Call Greg White. And then or directly with me at Paul J. Noble across, pretty much every platform.
Wonderful. Well,
We're waiting to hear from you.
What does the J stand for, Paul?
Joseph.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
I was afraid you weren't going to share. Some people won't share their middle name.
Yeah, that's all good. It's my grandfather.
Yeah, you got to like it.
that is cool. And so that's one little known fact about Paul.
There we go. See
Right,
how we do
Joseph,
this here?
Paul J.
Yep.
And then secondly, y'all might not know that Paul was a collegiate scholarship basketball player.
Yeah,
And
don't
what-
challenge him to a game of
Yeah,
horse.
don't do that. But
It's about all I can do.
does your range start when you step foot on the court? What's your favorite shot?
Just get me in the building. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, yeah.
3-pointer, inside, what do you do?
No inside game. Man, I'm just floating around the 3-point line.
Noted.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Yep.
2-on-2 will commence here in about a couple hours.
I haven't
Down here
done
in
that
Miami.
in many years. So
So, one last comment here. We're going to be wrapping up here shortly. I hate to do it. I really enjoyed the conversation we've had with Paul and Kevin and Greg. But Peter, I want to share his comment here because Peter retired as a strategic procurement professional, especially in the aviation industry. And he says GPO equals Group Purchasing Organization. And yes, it does work with great benefits. Been doing that since 2000, where he's been leveraging Aero Exchange out of Dallas for airlines. So, and Peter, I think, tuned into the webinar we had with Ara, and
He has some really great insights into procurement generally, but GPO specifically, and he had tremendous success with it. So
that's right. A lot of good feedback about the OMNIA Partners team. Okay, so folks, I've enjoyed this conversation too much.
probably a little too much.
It's good to be back in person, and
It's
Nerf.
good to see you in person.
Right.
And you guys too.
yeah.
So
Great energy.
Nerf says he's a basketball player too. I think we just became best friends, Paul.
Yeah, that's
right.
And
He's
challenged-
6'7" though, so
Yeah, he's
you're gonna have to drive him.
Join the Verusen squad.
Yeah, you're gonna have to drive him a couple times to keep him honest on the perimeter.
Shoot or shoot. Let's do it.
Nerf and Peter are challenging both of y'all to 2-on-2. So can we make
All
that
right.
happen? Pay-per-view.
We can. Nashville. Nashville. Let's do it.
All right. So Greg, folks, don't forget to connect with Kevin Heath with Omnia Partners and Paul Noble with Paul Joseph Noble
There
with
you go.
Verusen.
Only my mother calls me that.
And only when you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So Greg, before I wrap, what has been your favorite thing that's come out of this conversation over the last hour?
I think I've used this word a whole lot, but I think it's the leverage that this really provides to small businesses. First of all, full disclosure, advisor and shareholder in Verusen, just a huge fan of Omnia Partners, frankly. But I think that Omnia is bringing technology companies and sales resources and other unique solutions to companies as part of a group purchasing organization is really critical, and it shows their forward-looking position in the marketplace. And it's an absolutely critical thing. Look, we may or may not have a small business right here, right? And we use a lot of resources outside of our core competencies to help us become better. And one of them is sitting behind the cameras right there.
That's right.
Joshua, thank you very much, first of all. And of course, our beloved spouses and business partners also sitting off camera. So I think it's important to understand how you make a company successful and do so rapidly. I really liked some of the comments about it is life or death for small businesses right now. And the world is changing very rapidly. We have to look at that pace, and we have to match that pace in order to maintain growth as a small business.
Yep. Well said. Charles Heater, great to see you tuned in here today. And thank you, Dr. Rhonda Bumpinza Zimmerman says, super amazing listening experience here today. Intelligence, great vibes, and content here. Appreciate your insights all. Paul and Kevin enjoyed your positive perspective. Thank you for that. And make sure you check out, Rhonda's got some excellent how would you couch, kind of mental wellness type of content
Yeah,
across
rock
social.
climbing.
Good.
Well,
Right.
some great
And
pictures
hiking, yeah,
of her out in
right.
Arizona climbing.
She is definitely getting well.
That's right. Folks, one more thing here. So if whether you're tuned into the live version of this or you're hearing this on our podcast replay, get ready. We've got 2 interviews taking place on the exhibition floor later
Right.
this event. We're going to be talking about total cost of ownership and how that's evolved. We're going to be talking about labor challenges. Holy cow. Raise your hand if that's not impacting you. You won't see any hands raised, and a lot more challenges with some members of the OMNIA Partners team. So y'all stay tuned for that. All right, Greg, we ready to call it a wrap?
I guess we
What's
have
on the
to.
docket the rest of the afternoon?
There's a few good sessions that I want to get some eyes on, and then there may or may not be a pool across.
Oh, nice, nice.
I heard there's a Monte Carlo night that you might be joining.
Yeah, that's
wonderful.
right. I heard
Shaken,
that.
not stirred. Okay. With that said, great to have y'all here with
Casino
us.
Royale.
Yes. We were talking about James Vine last night, weren't we?
Yeah.
Great to have y'all with us here today on the first in-person Supply Chain Buzz. We look forward to doing a lot more of these. Big thanks to our hosts, OMNIA Partners, of course. Y'all check them out. Check out a lot of thought leadership's going to be coming out of Connections 2021. Be sure to connect also with the Verusen team, heavy hitting Verusen team, one of our favorite repeat guests here at Supply Chain Now. If you like conversations like this, check us out at supplychainnow.com or wherever you get your podcast from. But whatever you do today, take a page out of Paul and Kevin's book, and whatever you do, just start. Just start. Do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. Do that quick.
That was quick.
And on that
Do it
note,
again.
do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.